Do 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 do. Ra-pa-pum. La-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the highlight of human civilization. It's called CWSA, Coffee with Scott Adams. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. If you would like your experience, now streaming on multiple platforms, I think Rumble is working today. We've got the X platform and YouTube and locals for my beloved subscribers. And here's what you need to take this experience up to levels which you couldn't even imagine were possible. All you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip. It happens now. Go. Pretty good. Yeah, sometimes those sips aren't perfect, but that was pretty good. Well, here's the good news. I found a movie that I can watch. Wow. Have you noticed that all movies suck? Well, it turns out that there is still one person making good movies, and I've said it before, Tom Cruise. Why is it that Tom Cruise is the only person who knows how to make a movie? I was just watching the latest Mission Impossible, just came out on live stream, and it is screamingly unwoke without being bad in any way. In other words, you don't really, pick up on the wokeness or anti-wokeness of anything. You just watch the movie. It is so not heavy-handed in the wokeness that it just feels like a movie from yesterday or something. Yeah, and the other thing that Tom Cruise does right, and I have to think it's him. I feel it's like more him than even his directors. They are so well edited. He doesn't have any moment in the movie where you're like, all right, fast forward, fast forward. It's like every moment totally belongs in the movie. It's very rare. So check it out. What might not be the best movie you've ever seen, but it's all very watchable so far. Well, today I'd like to give you another statement from science. Now, here's something that you've heard. Probably you've heard this before from marriage experts, mostly divorce experts. I think you've heard it from Jordan Peterson, and I just heard it from some other relationship expert on Instagram. Don't remember his name, but he was saying that the most predictive variable for divorce. Do you know what it is? What is the one thing you look for that's most predictive of divorce? That's right, contempt. Yeah, yeah. Money is one of the biggest problems, but if you're going to predict divorce, it's contempt. So the first time I heard that, it was years ago, and I said to myself, "Holy cow! Wow, that's like opening up like this whole understanding. My awareness has been maximized. Now I know exactly what to look for, not only if I'm in a relationship, but other people, and I can totally predict what's going to happen." And I thought, why didn't I know that before? That contempt predicts divorce. Because it's backwards science. Backwards science. Let me just reword this. All right. So the experts are telling us, and sounding very smart when they do it, that if you see contempt, that predicts divorce. Huh. So when one or both of the people who are married to each other start thinking the other was a fucking asshole and they can't stand a moment in the same room, that, well, I didn't see this coming, but that actually predicts divorce. Wow. Can you believe it? That people who don't like each other while married are more likely to divorce than people who like each other? Where did that come from? It's like it came out of nowhere. Why why did I think that was profound for years? For years, I thought that was telling me something useful. So people who don't like each other are less likely to stay together. Why did that sound profound? Until today. Today, for the first time, I heard it and I thought, well, that's obviously backwards. You know what's a better way to say that? People who have already decided to divorce treat each other like dicks. It's backward science. It's not predicting, it's already happened. There's no predicting going on. All right. Very important story. We still don't have in America here. We have not elected a Speaker of the House. And the problems are mounting. For example, okay, next story. Elon Musk is trying to kill newspapers. He did a couple of things in that direction this week. So he posted this on X. He said the articles printed in newspapers are quite literally yesterday's news. The newspapers are literally yesterday's news. And I thought to myself, well, if it's printed, yes. I mean, they can do a little bit better online because they're usually online as well. But it is a good cut. But I had to correct him. I don't like to correct Elon Musk because he's usually, pretty spot on. I usually agree with him. But here, I think his statement is incomplete. He said articles printed in newspapers are quite literally yesterday's news, and I had to correct him because I said the Washington Post is not yesterday's news. The Washington Post is yesterday's fake news, and that's different. So, speaking of billionaires and newspapers, I saw a tweet today that it was so exactly what I've been thinking that it blew my mind. So, on the X platform, Rod Lorenz posted, I wonder if Jeff Bezos is embarrassed by Washington Post's incessant lying, or does he endorse it, or not realize it? And I thought to myself, I spent a full hour yesterday wondering about that. I don't spend all of my time thinking about the Roman Empire. Sometimes I think about Jeff Bezos. And I swear to God, I was working out and I was just obsessed by that question. Does Jeff Bezos know what the Washington Post does? I mean, how can he not? Well, on the other hand, does he approve of it? Or is it, does he see it as a problem also? What's going on? And my best hypothesis is that he's under duress, that he's being forced to own it for the benefit of some government entity that has some power over him, either because they can buy billions of dollars worth of server time on Amazon servers, which the CIA has, or maybe they control whether he can operate, as freely as he wants in different markets. Maybe gives him some protection there. I don't know. You could imagine a number of government entities having some power over Amazon and therefore over Bezos. But there's such a disconnect between what we know about Bezos and his ownership of the Washington Post. Would you agree? What we know about Bezos from everything except the Washington Post, I would describe him as non-political and a pragmatist, meaning that I don't even know if he leans left or right. I couldn't tell you, which is remarkable, really. And what I mean by that is he probably decides on each issue individually, which is what super smart people do. So it wouldn't surprise me. Now, I'm sure he identifies with one side or another, probably more Democrat than Republican, just a guess, but probably not obsessed with it. Probably more looking at each individual thing. Because there'll be something that Democrats like. He likes some things they like that would be bad for business. So he probably picks and chooses. But why would he put a reputation stain on his business doing the Washington Post? because that has an amazing reputation. In my opinion, they do software than anybody's ever done it. I could not be more honest with how Amazon as a technology works. The fact that you don't think about it every day, like some problem because of it, tells you how amazing it is. My God, the complexity of that, and then that it actually delivers me stuff the night. I'm just blown away every day. So I think he's under duress, but that's just speaking. All right, speaking of speculation and billionaires, did you see the news yesterday that Pete Thiel has been an FBI informant for years? It wasn't the biggest news, but it was all over the internet. So it's confirmed. It's confirmed from the FBI handler himself, which is pretty good confirmation. I think the handler's retired or something, but said, "Oh yeah, it's one of mine." Now, just so you don't get too excited about it, the combination is he was an informant strictly for international foreign stuff, which I don't mind too much. Do you? If he's an FBI informant, specifically excluding domestic stuff, he was excluded for talking about Trump, domestic politics, just an informant. If you learn something about other countries that was relevant to the U.S. I have a prediction or an observation. How could anybody who's a billionaire not be talking to the FBI or maybe other intelligence groups? I think it's universal. You don't think that the government entities approached Elon Musk? It's impossible to imagine it hasn't happened. Impossible to imagine. Right? Now that doesn't mean he's agreed to do things or these with them. Doesn't mean he's not. If I were a billionaire that would handle it, I would work with the government when it made sense, and I would resist it when it didn't make sense or it violated some moral ethical boundary. That's what's happening with every billionaire who has any influence or anything. Somebody like Elon Musk. I feel like the government has to one pocket, which doesn't mean they're trolling him. It could be an interplay where he's looking for their own benefit. But don't be naive. Imagine that we have important and influential billionaires who are dealing with other countries, China in particular, and that not being talked to by the government. Of course they are. How much impact that has on each issue individually. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy said something that I agree with completely. He did a post. It's not 1980 anymore, which a great frame, by the way. He says it's not 1980 anymore. The real threat to free speech today. The government is using a combination of carrots and sticks to get private companies to censor speech that the government cannot censor directly. He says if it's state action in disguise, the Constitution still applies. Oh, that rhymes. If it's state action in disguise, the Constitution still applies. Period. I didn't realize he had a rhyme there. I think that was accidental, but very good. This precisely my point of view. Precisely. That in fact you've probably seen me say that was an argument in the 80s. Have you said that online? I actually say the same thing. It's a good argument in the 80s. Right. And the reason is that if you don't pay somebody, you're never going to change their mind. So if somebody says blah 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 speech, the government's not doing its private company, so it's okay. The correct answer is you're absolutely right. In the 80s, that's what Vivek did. Because if you don't get them that they have a proper review, a well-constructed opinion, it just doesn't apply anymore. That something's changed. That's a much gentler way to say wrong. So totally right until and then things change. Now you should assess it. Very, very good persuasion. All right. How many of you have heard And let me make this statement. Free speech is gone. There's not free speech in the United States. I don't know if any country has it, but we definitely have it. And I'm getting more and more pissed when I hear people say we do, because it's gone beyond just a thing we disagree about. Whether the definition has been met of free or something. It's not really just words. It's like you're part of the problem if you don't know that free speech is on. Don't be part of the problem. I don't know if there is a solution, but if you're acting like you still have free speech, you only have the freedom to be unsting to the government. That's it. The moment you're instinct, or you can make a difference, people listen to you, your speech is gone. Yeah, as a practical matter. Now, I'd like the NPC to take a moment to say, hey, but Scott, Constitution applies to the government, not to private entities. You missed the whole point, NPCs. Missed the whole point. Have you heard of an entity called NewsGuard? How many have heard of this? NewsGuard? So apparently it's some EU organization, volunteers, really who are in the business of censoring people. And it turned out that one of the people on that organization looking to censor people is Jimmy Wales, one of the founders of Wikipedia. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with Jimmy Wales, Wikipedia guy, being a censorship board? I would like to give you my insider view here. Now, normally I would not tell you about a private conversation, so I'm not going to give you any details. But I have had extensive private conversations with Jimmy Wales about the information on Wikipedia and some other related stuff. And I was just reviewing because they were like 19, 20, 2020. We had some extensive back and forth. So one of them was about the finding peoples. And I brought his attention, hey, Wikipedia saying that the find people hoax, the real thing, and needs to be fixed. It's like one of the biggest problems in the country. They fix it. Now, to his credit, he looked at my information. I showed the transcript and what was reported, now different. And he looked into it. They actually dug into the conversation that was ongoing. And back to me, he said, it looked like the people who were sort of fighting it out for supremacy had all the right arguments. Meaning he didn't know how it was going to end up, but the process was working. There were people who were questioning the narrative loud enough so that the people were hearing them. They were showing their work, right? Transparency involved. And so his summary was that would work out. Now, as I looked at Wikipedia to see if the find people hoax is covered correctly, because something will get there, it'll drift off, back and drift off. So I don't know. But so here's what I'll just to support Jimmy Wales. In my private conversations, he was very interested in getting it right. That was my take. That he actually just wanted to get it right. So I didn't see, I could see bias for sure. So there was no question the way he leaned politically, but he was fully engaged in listening to the counter argument and making sure that the system included the counter argument, and then let this do what the system is going to do. So I wouldn't hate on him too hard. I do think that a lot of good people get dragged into the world of censorship and don't realize the implications of what could go wrong. I think they actually a number are just trying to make the information, but I'll just put that out there. And let me ask you this: Do you think suburbs are less safe since Trump was? This seems like a related question, but let me ask the question. Make your sense? Are the suburbs safe? Yeah. Because one of the conversations I had with Jimmy was he, and I don't think he minded this because the question was completely reasonable. This is nothing about him. But it was around 2020, Trump said in a tweet that if Biden got elected, the suburbs, start getting dangerous. I retweeted it, and I had already had a number of conversations with Jimmy Wales. So he was curious, and I was just reminding myself, looked at our past conversation morning, and he was curious if I really believe that because I'd retweeted it. Did I really believe that if Biden got elected, suburbs would become less? And I answered that it was a reasonable prediction, even if the purpose of the prediction would prevent it. Predictions have two purposes. And you should probably just when I make predictions. Some of my predictions are just to get it right, just seeing if you can predict. So some of it out, is it possible? Do you even know what's going to happen? And we do it for fun. I predict this, and then you get to compare it. But I'm going to turn off this feed if you stop bitching about the sound. Now the locals I've already in them, but I don't want to seem like a dick. But I can't do the show if every fucking minute you're complaining about the sound. So stop watching the platform you're watching if the sound is sufficient. You can watch it on YouTube, Rumble, or the X platform live, or you go to scottadamslocals.com, and at the moment it's unlocked for non-subscribers. But could you please shut the fuck up about the sound? Can you do it for me? Because this is live. If you yell at me all day long comments while I'm live, I can't do this. It's not possible. I just have to turn you. Do you think you can settle down a little bit? But there is a few people on the spectrum who just can't stop yelling. I have to give them a little bit of social programming. So socially, you shouldn't be doing it, right? It's a technical problem. It's a social problem. So come the fuck down. Anyway, I think the do think suburbs get a little more dangerous. Let's talk to Sidney Powell deal. So as you know, Sidney Powell, the Kraken was coming, and you find out some issues about the election, which never panned out. No Krakens found yet. But she had a bunch of felonies were dropped. He had to plead guilty to 6 misdemeanors. They had small fines and didn't seem to be anything that would affect her too much. Had to make it a Paul or something. No big deals. But then she also agreed to testify honestly in the RICO case against Trump that charges him with allegedly a conspiracy to take over the government. Now, how do you think this is being reported on the left and the right? Completely different, right? Just completely different. The left and the right. So the left is masturbating to it. I mean, I swear to God, I think people were typing with one hand, and it was like, oh, Sidney Powell, she's going to talk. She's going to get Trump. And it was like, it was actually creepy. Maybe not as creepy as my account, but it was creepy. Like it actually made me feel dirty. Watching these people, and it was porn, because there's no doubt about it. They're getting dopamine from the that Trump could be hurt and jail. They're getting pleasure from it. It's weird, but here's the weirdest part. Why are they getting any pleasure from that? What makes them think that's going to go their way? Their issue is that it's obvious that Trump was obvious he colluded to overthrow the government, and therefore, if it's obvious he's guilty, say the left, all you need is one person who says they'll tell the truth, who's also an insider, and boom, Trump goes to jail. Problem solved, right? I'm not so sure that's the way to go. I don't think that's true. If I had to bet, I'd put a pretty healthy bet on the she's going to destroy prosecution's RICO case, saying that she was there and saw every part of it, and at no point did anything legal happen. That's what I think. Because remember, she did not say she would testify, quote, against Trump. That's the news. She agreed to tell the truth. She testified. Is that actually a compromise? Let me see. A famous attorney, and might have to testify. Do you think that might try to tell the truth? I've got a feeling that if a famous attorney isn't going to do a lot of lying, on the witness chair, are they? Does that happen a lot? I don't see how that could possibly be good for her. So this is one of those situations where both sides get a little dopamine. When I heard it, I said to myself, oh, basically the charge against one of the main players have now seen bullshit. The felonies were all dropped. In other words, they were probably bullshitty anyway. And then she gets to talk. I'm very interested in what she has to say. So I think I told you that in a conversation with who I call my Democrat friend. He's smart because went to a very school, attention to the news, serious person, right? So if you're in any kind of conversation with him about anything serious, he's going to bring goods. Like he's paid attention, he's got an argument, he's gonna whip it at me. He believes, still, I think, that Trump's advisors or aides have testified Trump knew he had lost the election, but was doing his protests anyway and trying to take over the country. Now, when I heard that, I said to myself, is that possible? Is it possible I missed that story? What was there a story in the news in which there was somebody who was in the room who's claiming that Trump said, "Oh, I know I lost fair and square, but I'm going to pretend I didn't because I'll overthrow the country." And I said to myself, "How would I miss that story?" And so I Googled what I could think of to Google, and there is no story like that. I mean, obviously, if such a story existed, it would be at the top of the feed, right? That's how search works. If it's anti-Trump, it's going to be the first. There was nothing like it. There were things around it. For example, there were stories that said that Trump's advisors leave the less fair, and they told him so. Somehow, I think that worked into he knew it wasn't. He knew it was fair. Why would Trump suddenly start believing his advisors on something the advisors couldn't possibly know one way or the other? How could they know? Doesn't even make sense. And then it goes further to that Trump knew he lost. Now, I don't know what Trump said or didn't say to any people at the time. Do know this. Nobody could have known if they won or lost. It wasn't knowable. Right? You only know what people told you. I know that the experts said the election was fair. I didn't do it. Did you? Do you remember recounting the ballots yourself? The only thing we know what people tell us, and what people will tell us is reliable or unreliable. It's a multiple choice question, or both. It's unreliable. Anything that comes from humans is sketched out. So think about Think about the level of TDS you would have to have. Imagine that you could read the president's mind, and that somehow he could read the minds of all the people with the election. So it's like a double mind reading thing. You first must assume that Trump can read the minds of all the people involved in the elections in a to know that they had pure thoughts and nothing wrong. Because if you couldn't read their minds, you'd have no way of knowing. If somebody found a way to wasn't picked up, how would you know? The only person who would know was who did it, probably. So he would have to read their minds and know that none of them existed. And then we would have to read Trump's mind to know that he their minds. How deeply broken does you have to be to believe in double mind reading? One, that Trump read all the minds of all the people who ran the election everywhere. And also, so we can read his mind and see that he read other minds. That's actually the claim. I mean, if you work it out, that's what it'll be. It's amazing that smart people are not immune from persuasion. One thing I can teach you that you really need to understand: intelligence does not protect you from bullshit. In fact, there are people who say the intelligent are more easily fooled, become more confident in their opinions. That comes being smart. The smart people are saying, I looked at all the evidence and this is what it is. The less smart people say, I looked at the evidence I could find, but they probably fooled me, so way to know for sure. Right? So the people who don't know much will quite often the right answer. All right, Biden did his little address last night to mixed reviews. Brim thought we were divorce. I'll use his words. He said, quote, after the speech Brit Hume had on Fox, I think it may be remembered as one of the best, if not the best, speeches of his presidency. He was firm. He was unequivocal. He was strong, as he has been, particularly in recent days before he went to Israel and while he was over there. So really kind of a hero in a way. The leadership we've been waiting for is what I say. Not everybody. Dana Perino was on the show at the same time, and thought he was bouncing around from Ukraine to Israel to Taiwan, and it was a little bit disjointed. Other people said he had one of the instructions on the teleprompter that was not to be read. So there was one part the teleprompter said, "Make it clear." I think it was talking to him, not something he was supposed to read. So he just make it clear in the middle of his sentence. Now I don't know. That's something you could see Joe Biden doing when he was 50. I don't know that that's actually dementia, but maybe, who knows? And the part that made me disgusted that he said that funding for to help Israel and also Ukraine. First of all, the fact that he tied the two together so that nobody can say no to all of it. As long as he says that the thing is one package, you would have to say either no to Ukraine funding or no to Israel funding. And there's probably nobody in Congress who can say no to both, except maybe a few rogues. So they got this trick to figure out how to screw the American public using procedure. But they're doing it in front of us. The American people by right front to deny your operation because you might have a different opinion of funding Ukraine than you might have funding Israel. And instead of letting the public decide on each of them individually, he's going them together and use a procedure available to him to make it impossible to say no. But watching my president screw me in public and then ask for applause is not comfortable to me. No, you fucking asshole. make them two separate things and vote independently. Don't me and then tell me you're doing it and act like I should be saluting you for it. No, you should lose your job for that. You should be impeached immediately for bringing these two funding requests together. That's what he's doing. Yeah. So to me, it was a disaster. But the chilling part was where you count very specifically the number of defense or let's say munitions makers in the United States make a lot of money because of the deal. There's nothing I wanted to hear less than that. Nothing I want to hear less than he was going to take money and transfer it for munitions makers. No, I get that we have to do it now and then. It's an unprecedented thing. But the fact that he would call it out and then name the states that would benefit, it's like, oh, in Pennsylvania, you got this thing. I thought that was gross and disgusting thing, and I was embarrassed by it. I'm not really impressed by much, but you get the point. And I asked myself, as much as Trump's famous for turning a political issue into a real estate or a business frame, which I kind of like, actually. I like if he's looking at North Korea, if he sees it as part of the real estate question and stuff, because it gives them the variables that other people have access to. So, but I don't think that Trump would have asked for money for 2 wars and told you it would have been profitable for the makers. I don't see it. I do not see it. Now, it's possible. He does, like I say, he talks about business terms about everything. But I don't think he would have that bad a judgment. That feels like just terrible judgment for selling because he's not selling economics when he's selling war. He literally told us the war would be profitable to people who are not me. Scott, I will take your money, but don't worry, it'll be profitable for these other companies. But they're Americans, so hey, that's not really good enough. Not enough. And I saw, I think it was Mark Warner said that the shows that maybe talking to Brett Baer or somebody. He said if you don't understand why maybe I already said this, why Ukraine is important to Taiwan, that you don't understand geopolitics. In other words, he said if we let Ukraine fall, China would see his weakness. That's the implication, and go after Taiwan. Let me test that hypothesis. How many of you think that the only thing stopping China from taking Taiwan was what happens in Ukraine? Because it's been decades and decades where China had a question about Taiwan and never wants Ukraine part of the conversation, and yet it's the same situation. So now you had Ukraine, and you really think that if we pull our military support away from Ukraine, which would give us greater military capabilities for other things, that's the point that they hack. Once we stopped wasting our money somewhere else, we'd attack that they try to make trouble then. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I thought Warren looked hypnotized because he said it like it's so obvious right in front of you that if you don't see it, you're some kind of like political idiot. And I'm looking right at it, and I'm saying, who in the world thinks like that? That decades of having Ukraine part of the nation, but as soon as Ukraine gets in here, that's the key variable. The only thing that matters. Suddenly, that doesn't even sound. It doesn't even sound a little bit credible. Now I point, but I just can't imagine saying that's the variable. Just wait for that, and then no. I don't see it. I also don't think that companies or countries are geographically disadvantaged as much as Taiwan. I think they always end up with the main, don't they? You just 100 years or 200 years, but sooner or later they're going to be the country. And I hate to say this because I'm very pro-Israel. How can Israel survive in the long run? I mean, seriously, how is that even possible in the long run? Like in the 200 years long run, how is it even possible? Yeah, it seems like geography is just too important. You know, the reason that the United States has done well war-wise is that it's hard to us. Got that big old ocean. If we were literally, if Mexico and Canada were filled with people with growing population that outnumbered us 10 to 1 and wanted us dead and surrounded us, would America last? I doubt it. Not 200 years. So, yeah, I worry Israel. I feel like Israel needs Israel too. I think there should be a new Israel that we sort of set aside somewhere in the country. You know, you take some place in New Mexico, say, all right, this is just the back. There's nothing there. We won't put anything there. Just basically, but in 2 years, the Israelis might need an escape plan. It'd be nice to have it up. But on the other hand, an escape plan wouldn't fight so hard to keep what you got, so it would be demoralizing. So it's a bad idea. But I do worry. 200 years in the world can geography not and population not be the primary variables. All right, Rufo posted this. He said Hamas leader he was talking about a Hamas leader. Yes, quote, I want to take this opportunity to the racist murder of George Floyd. This is the leader of Hamas this week. The leader of Hamas this week decided that the key thing to say to the rest of the world is that we show the racist murder of George Floyd. And he says the same type of racism of George Floyd is being used by Israel against the Palestinians. And as Christopher Rufo points out, the Hamas, BLM, DSA, I don't know who they are, and decolonization are all the same bloodlust. I agree, right? Hamas and BLM clearly not the same, but they're of the same, let's say, philosophy. They're a similar kind of dangerous, have smaller numbers. You know, if there were people in BLM, who knows? But yes, I think it's important to point out that they'll have lust for the people who don't look like them. Well, happening in Ukraine, I saw one data I didn't know. There's 70% of the casualties are from the big guns. I guess that means artillery. Did you that? 70% of the, at least 70% casualties are from the big artillery. Because basically it just drops on you and you didn't know is coming, and it turns all day long. So that makes sense. But it turns out the new, more modern artillery that Ukraine has been a match for the vast outnumbering number of big guns that the Russians have. So the Ukrainians apparently have set up a very sophisticated spotting and detection system. So they'll spot sometimes with their drones. They'll put a drone over the target so the drone can watch the target, shoot at it, and then the drone tells them how to all right, 20 feet short, just a little bit again. So they pretty much take out 100% of anything they see. I mean, think about that. The Ukrainians have the ability to destroy 100% of anything that can be seen from the air that's on the lines there. Okay. So they're just one by one and just taking them out. And apparently it's almost just routine. See it, shoot at it, just kill it. Go to the next one. Now, I don't know if they're going to run out of artillery shells before Russia does, because one of the things to take out is the local munitions depots. So it's harder for Russia to get the munitions to where they need it. So it does look to me like a little, total, well, it's a tie. Nobody's anywhere. And I don't know how our leaders can make peace in a war where it's obvious it's not going anywhere. It seems that's the ultimate way you could make peace. All right, have you been paying attention? What I do, we're going to match it and do it forever, ever. Why don't we work this? A comment is actually the Russians are advancing rapidly. Well, do you believe that? I believe it. We report somewhere. But do you believe the Russians are advancing rapidly? I don't. Nope. I don't think so. Alexander, of course, reports it. Doesn't matter who reports it. Just doubt it's true. Now, I do think that the places where either side will punch through. But once you punch through, it's just target practice, right? Punching through is not getting you a lot. You don't see the Russians giving up. I don't see anybody giving up until they get what they want. But the Russians could get what they want without war, probably. I've got an idea for. Well, let me talk about Gaza. So the hospital's failing there. As you might imagine, the emergency supply are having trouble getting in off of crossing, as you would anticipate. And apparently the ground attack has not started, so it's much later than people thought. Some of it might be that it takes a while to organize a ground assault, but I've got a feeling that they may have changed their tactics. And remember what I said? It didn't make sense to do a ground assault. Do you remember I said that? I said that it makes more sense to do a siege, which is what they called it. They actually used the word siege. And the siege would be basically starving out both the civilian and military until you separated enough good people from the bad, and then you can do whatever you want with the bad people. So I think time is on their side, and maybe the worst thing that Israel could do is create a bunch of casualties that are way on the pale. I think several thousand have already died in Gaza. I saw 4,000 plus. I don't know how people would have to die in Gaza before our minds revert, and it just looks like Israel's the bad guy if you were back at this point. But there is some number. I don't know what the number is, but there's a number. If we hit it, everything reverses. So Israel would be smart just to stay away from whatever that mental number is. Keep those losses down to be somewhere in range of Israel losses, and at least not too much of a magnitude bigger. And just take as they need. It'd be expensive, but fewer people die. To me, your enemy living underground is more a plus than a minus. If you're a guerrilla outfit and the other team doesn't want to bomb your city, being underground, very good idea. However, if it's a siege, being underground is just the place you die. Am I right? And you can't shoot at people underground. So I think the tunnel networks become the weakest part of the Hamas military effort. To me, it's their weakness. And I will just starve them out. I don't think anybody's going to go down into a tunnel if they don't have to. You could just send a robot. All right. So here's things are going. I think it's going to be an Israeli dictation strike on Iran because there may be no way to. So it would be the normal sequence of this. If the ground assault starts, then Hezbollah has not just a free pass, but almost a requirement for survival that they have to attack. Reason being, if they don't attack them, their supporters will think, "Why are we giving you all this money? Like this is the time you attack." You have all the cover of Israel going into a civilian population. You're going to have numbers of deaths. They're distracted. There could be no time to attack in the history of Hezbollah. This would be time to attack. given that they know they're not going to lose no matter what attack, it doesn't matter to us. So if the ground assault starts, Hezbollah will get aggressive. If they didn't get aggressive, they'd be seen as weak. And why are we funding you, sort of? So they have to. If Hezbollah gets aggressive and Israel takes 2 minutes, because there's some amount of little annoying hits that Israel will just put up with, because full-out war is too much. But I think Hezbollah will exceed Israel's patience. And then what would be Israel's next move? An all-out war with Hezbollah? Do you think that would be the next move? That would be, I think, a mistake. I think that would be a mistake. I would do a decapitation on Iran if they can figure out a way to make it work. Yeah, the hostages get killed no matter what, and I'm saying that cavalierly or without respect to their dignity of their lives, let's say. But realistically, they're in a place where there's not much. Like I don't see too many rescues happening, but maybe and worth trying. Certainly worth. I wouldn't expect a lot from any rescues. But I think Israel's done talking. I think that they cannot. It would be a waste of time to be able to destroy Hamas and just fortify their border with Hezbollah, because it would just recreate. As long as Iran gives money to the bad guys, the situation will just be recreated, and I don't think they put up with it a second. So if they want to end it, they would probably have to try something bold, like taking out the leadership of Iran as many times as it takes. Like, immediately they get a new hardliner. You just take out the new hardliner soon as you can. Now, you may say to me, this will create massive terrorism around the world. The lights might go out in the United States. I think they might. I think the light might go out in the United States, because I'm sure Iran has terrorism teams in the United States by now. They would presumably be activated automatically, and they would presumably go after things like the grid, to make sure everybody's going on. So I would expect lights to go out, actually, in a few weeks, permanently. But I'd make sure you got batteries, candles, is what I'm saying, because I think Iran will hit back if they get, and I don't know what would stop them being hit. We're already seeing our embassies are being cleared down in the whole area. We see America barely had government. Right. If you were Iran, or even Hezbollah, or even Israel, and you look at leadership, and you look at Speaker of the House, don't you tell yourself you're gonna have to kind of do this on your own? Now, the American military being in the Gulf, we got a strike force that kind of pulled up in the area. Do you think that that's because of Hezbollah, or do you think that's to keep Iran under control in case there's a decapitation strike? I don't know. All those things could be what Joe Biden says, the way to keep every where they are, not to get them in the war, maybe. But so make this prediction: if there's a bloody ground assault, which I think is in question, I think the siege are likely at this point. But if you go in and there are massive casualties, Hezbollah will be active. Israel will say, we're done with this. They'll just take out Iran at any cost. I think they'll take out the leadership. Now remember when Khamenei was taken out by Trump? And people said, oh no, that's going to create a wave of attacks. Did it? I think they might have done the opposite. So I've got a feeling that the Iranian people are not so happy about their leadership that they wouldn't mind them vaporized, frankly. That's an unpredictable thing, because if you attack any country, they tend to back the leaders during the attack. So it's a dicey proposition. So do you imagine that Israel or the United States knows where the head of Iran is? I feel like might be just waiting to know for sure where. And I don't think he'll appear in public. Have you ever, has the leader of Iran appeared in public in recent, or is it always sort of in a room that you didn't know was? I can't imagine him doing an outdoor event in the world of drones. By the way, you know that in the age of drones, leaders will no longer be able to do outdoor events. So that's going to happen. All right. All right. How about these other forms want me to turn it off? Do you want to talk about the audio some more? No. I'm just if they want me to turn it off. You turn it off. Which platforms are getting the audio problems specifically? Is it all of them? It's the end of the show anyway. So you can tell me. Camp comments. Well, the comments just stopped immediately as soon as I asked a question. Oh, the whole feed stopped. the whole thing just. All right. Well, I don't know if you can hear me over here. Huh. If I could find my cursor, do you ever have trouble finding your cursor? And gonna have to ask you what that command is. You can hear me, but it's unlistenable. But you won't tell me what platform, right? So I can't fix it. So it's either YouTube or Rumble or X or all of them. But nobody's going to tell me what it is. Okay. So my computer won't reboot with the app. What's the command for quitting an app? No, you don't know either. It's weird. How could all of you not know this? End option escape. That is the one. The option escape. Do you think I'll remember command option escape tomorrow?